should be recording now.
Okay. Welcome, physician leaders. We're so glad to have you here. Like Ariana said, I am Amara, the second co-director, and we are excited to answer all your questions. Thank you so much for filling out that survey so we know how to target our presentation.
So first, I want to start off with SNMA's mission. For those of you who may know it or may not know it, I'll just read it to you guys quickly. So the mission of SNMA is committed to supporting current and future underrepresented minority medical students, addressing the needs of underserved communities, and increasing the number of clinically excellent, culturally competent, and socially conscious physicians. And that's something we definitely aim to do through this program. So we try to tackle all of these things in FLP throughout the year to help form these more, get more underserved and minority students into medicine and form these like well-rounded physicians in the future.
And so let's get started with our overview of what we're going to do today. So the goal is to impart a holistic understanding of what the FLP program is. So we're going to meet the co-directors. We're going to give you a brief history and overview of this project and then the program, and then also what is the expected time commitment. We're going to talk about eligibility and qualities we're looking for in an applicant. We also have a really cool guest speaker on tonight. She was a previous FLP fellow and also MAPS chapter of the year, MAPS member of the year this past year. And then we're going to end up with follow-up questions and comments. So I think that's it. That's going to be everything we're going to go over. It's going to be a deep dive. So definitely feel free to ask questions in the chat. At the end, we'll open up the mic so everybody who wants to ask questions directly can do that. And then, but in between, I think it's best if we just do questions in the chat so we can keep the flow and then go from there.
Okay, so again, we are your co-directors, and I'll leave it up to Amara to do her slide.
Yeah, so let me get started. I hail from Los Angeles, California. I see some people are here from the California area, so woo woo. And then my undergrad university was at Stanford, where I did my BA in human biology. And then I stayed on and I got a master's in mechanical engineering. And that allowed me to do multiple other things. We can get to that later on if you guys have questions about that. With my SNMA leadership, I'd have to say I'm a newbie to SNMA, but I absolutely love it. So I was a fellow last year, and we'll talk about my fellow project, so because I know some of you guys have questions on that. And then I was also part of the alumni affairs, and there I put on this show, Sowing Seeds specialty series. So if anybody was able to log on to that, we primarily target fourth-year medical students to help them navigate applying to residency during the pandemic. So that was a fun thing too. So if you have questions on that, let me know. And then my most recent leadership is being co-director of FLP. And then other things I've done is being a senior advocate for a crisis center, worked a lot with diversity and inclusion. I worked as a consultant, a management consultant in that firm. And then I'm currently doing data analysis for Georgetown Neurosurgery.
And I'm Ariana. I'm from Long Island, New York. I graduated undergrad in 2018, and I'm currently a second-year medical student at the Zucker School of Medicine, also at Hofstra. I'm expected to graduate in 2023, and I did take one gap year in between where I worked as a medical assistant and a scribe at urgent care. So I actually have a long history of SNMA involvement. So in undergrad, I got involved first through MAPS, where I was like a general member, and I became an e-board member and eventually the president in undergrad. And then when I became a medical student, I became a SNMA member and then moved up to being the MAPS liaison on my SNMA e-board. And then over this past year, I also was an FLP fellow with Amara. And then just some other general leadership things that I've done while in medical school so far. So I was the co-president of my AMWA chapter, which is the American Medical Women Association organization. And then I'm still currently working as a research assistant for a COVID-19 project. And I also did another leadership project through my school. So obviously building on leadership skills is something that I definitely been working towards for a while, and something I hope to continue to do through FLP for myself as well as for all of you.
So moving forward, let's give you a brief history of SNMA's FLP program. So it was created by Michael Knight back in the day, and he launched it in Region 5, which was then later on enhanced by Dr. Priscilla Posse, and she's amazing. So she's going to be definitely speaking. If you become a fellow this year, you will hear her speak. And then it was put into the president's initiative in their agenda so that it can be something that can be done every single year. And currently we recruit 10 pre-meds, non-trads. So I just want to highlight that because that was a question somebody else had as well. We definitely take non-traditional students. I am a non-traditional student and I did FLP. And then we take 10 medical students. This cycle, the 2021 and 2022 cycle, will be our 10th iteration of the FLP program. So super excited to continue this legacy.
Okay, so this is going to be a large overview of what the program is, and it's going to be a lot right now, but we're going to dive into each of these a little more, so don't get too overwhelmed by the slide, but just to break down some of the things that FLP entails. So there's leadership training that we do through webinars that happen on the first Sunday of each month. We have these think tank challenges where we give you a scenario and you work with a team and then present what you came up with on the fourth Sunday of every month. We have leadership projects that you're going to be working either strategic team or national team, which we'll get into later. We have group and individual mentorship because we think that's very important in the process of leadership. We give participants a chance to participate in NLI, which is something hosted by SNMA. We have opportunities for FLP fellows to present to national SNMA leaders. And then we have a pre and post program questionnaire so we could see if we're tackling the things that you want to tackle from the start and how much you learn about SNMA from beginning of FLP to the end. And then we have AMAG, which is a great way. It's a fun conference that SNMA holds, and it's kind of the culmination of the year. And we get to end FLP by honoring you guys at AMAC, which will be AMAC 2022. Sorry, never going to remember 2020. And then we have small group skills development, which are these sessions that we host a little bit later in the curriculum, specific topics. And then we also hope to help FLP fellows build community and connections through all of these different parts of FLP. So let's dive a little bit into what each one of them are.
So the leadership training is our form of informational webinars that we give to the fellows. And this is our main crux of the curriculum. Like, this is where you learn new leadership techniques and skills from physician leaders. And each webinar lasts about 60 to 75 minutes. And the presenters are SNMA alumni and other physician leaders in medicine. So this is actually a snapshot of what the curriculum will be. So we will talk about the history and structure of SNMA. We think that's crucial for anybody who wants to be a leader within SNMA to know this history and structure so that you'll be able to navigate that, whether you be in undergrad, non-trad, or even in medical school. We're going to talk about SNMA leadership perspective, diversity in medicine. We're going to talk about budget management and financial operations, and that's key because any leader needs to know how to understand that stuff in order to progress in their project. We have definitely mentorship and networking amongst our group. And then we'll talk about our last transition from SNMA to leadership in medicine, what that look like and how to navigate that.
So I'll break down a little bit about what think tank challenges are, which is what I mentioned in the snapshot. So for think tank challenges, there's kind of three parts. So we're going to give you guys a topic at the webinar the first Sunday of the month. And you're gonna be assigned teams, and we're gonna leave it up to your team to decide when to meet, what kind of research you want to do, how you want to tackle this project. So that's moving into the application part of this. There will be 4 teams who have 5 fellows, and there's going to be 5 challenges in total. And there's different roles that we want each one of the fellows to have a chance to take on. So, for example, there's like task manager or investigator or presenter, different roles like that. So you get a chance to, so we have 5 challenges, so you have a chance to do each one of those roles. And we leave it up to you guys to come up with creative solutions to the scenarios that we give you at the webinar at the first Sunday of the month. And then we have presentations. There'll only be one person presenting, but we ask that all FLP fellows be there for it. And then you guys are going to upload a PowerPoint, present it, and then we're going to have questions and feedback after to kind of go over what we were looking for, or if we see anything in your PowerPoint we have questions on, we want to comment on, we think you did well on, we'll give feedback in that time, and that's usually a 40 to 45-minute webinar we host on the 4th Sunday of every month.
So the leadership projects that we do is like the underpinnings of SNMA is revealed through this. And leadership projects stem from 2 main categories. You either work with the national committee or you do a strategic project that encompasses SMA as a whole. So let's focus on the national committee for right now. There are 11 fellows who are going to be connected to a national committee that we have. And we'll dive deeper into what these national committees are and past projects that were done. And then each fellow will work individually and they'll work in conjunction with that national committee. And then the projects are involved in the programmatic aspect of SNMA, a component that you either start something or you continue something that the national committee has on their agenda, and also be creative and figure out what you would like to do within this space. And our guest speaker is going to have amazing stuff to talk about with her project and how she was creative in her national committee. So the projects in the strategy team will have 9 fellows who are in groups of 3. So you'll be working in your group, and each group will have a particular strategic component to address. And so strategy teams will also be paired with principal investigators and consultants to help guide you. They're more of like a touch point, like let's get an idea of like, are we going in the right direction? You'll go to them, or if they have connections with other people within SMA, then those are really good people to talk to so they can connect you with to progress your project. And so the projects are monitored for timely execution by the program end. So that looks like filling out peer reports, filling out phase reports. And this is just reports that are either done individually or as a group every month so that we are able to track how the project is going and provide any assistance as we go. So just to recap, leadership projects stem to 2 groups. Fellows get to pick. We send a survey at the beginning for them to decide if they would like to be on the strategy team or if they would like to be on a national committee team.
Yeah, so I was actually on a national committee project last year, so I could talk a little bit about some of the projects that were done and what you can expect. So we listed some of the national committees that SNMA has here. So for example, I won't go into all of them because there is quite a few, but we had the publications, which is what I worked on, and I'll dive into that in a little bit. We had academic affairs, for example, and the person who worked on that hosted a Sowing Seeds webinar, and then they executed the series for medical students. We have the International Committee who developed sponsorship packets and trip fundraising ideas to help students for abroad programs. We have External Affairs who were developing SMA's branding toolkit for interacting with external partnerships. So you guys could definitely, we offer positions on most of the national committees. There will be some FLP fellows who will be more than one FLP fellow for that committee, but hopefully you guys will be able to form, or you should be able to form your own projects through this. And I think it might be best if we, if I go into my project a little bit to give you guys an idea of like what being on a national committee and what your role as an FLP fellow would be. And before we do that, again, just mentioning, we mostly connect you with the national committee. And then from there, we hope that you stay in contact with them and then just update us for the most part. So we also have pair reports at the end of the month, just keeping track of all your progress, whether it be like a meeting, working on a project, doing a PowerPoint. We just want to keep track of that progress, but you're mostly going to be in communication with that national committee for your committee project.
And so for strategy team, the projects were diverse and impactful, and we allow fellows and we encourage fellows to brainstorm and design novel solutions to critical SNMA issues. So this past year, we actually had 3 strategy teams that encompass income diversification, that focus on SNMA branding, and another one that focused on SNMA structure. So for the income diversification team, they were looking to seek to diversify SNMA's income portfolio to hedge against any scenarios where there's a loss of income. And the team that did that, and this was actually my team, we created an alumni donation campaign that was different from what was done in the past, and that hopefully is sustaining so that we can get established alumni physicians to donate on a reoccurring basis to really bolster SNMA. And I'll talk deeply into that in the next couple of slides. For SNMA branding, they were looking to assess influencers and companies and brands that SNMA can collab with to improve their network and development, and also for the bottom line of financial support. What they came up with was pretty cool. It was a branding toolkit for regional directors, where they standardized guides for the external SNMA access to internal SNMA. So that was really impactful because we needed something like that to be able to really navigate, especially during what was happening in 2020. People were reaching out to SNMA. And then also the SNMA structure, they were able, what their project was to seek to promote the sustainability of SNMA through aiding in project leadership, project and leader transition. So this is key, right? When we go from year to year, what type of institutional memory do we have that is maintained so that what we did produce that year does not get lost? This project was working on that, and particularly they decided to focus on this SNMA to NMA transition, and they developed a series of webinars that culminated in AMEC. So what they found out was that a lot of students drop off from SNMA and don't enter NMA when it's another version, like the older version of SNMA, that supports them through residency. So they want to focus on that. That was pretty cool. And then I think the next couple of slides, we're going to dive deep into the actual projects that were done this past year. And we do have a guest speaker, Melissa, who will be talking about her project coming next. Melissa, if you don't mind, you can unmute yourself and go ahead, you have the floor.
Hey guys, it's so nice to meet you all. My name is Melissa Hernandez, and I was also an FLP fellow the last year from 2020 to 2021. So I worked alongside Diversity Research Committee to create a whole new program within SNMA's national infrastructure. And so I want to go ahead and start from the beginning so that you guys can have a sort of chronological timeline as to how exactly this project came to be. So to start off, I heard about FLP when I had just graduated from undergrad at Florida International University. And at that point, I had been with MAPS, which is SNMA's pipeline program, for a total of 3 years. However, I didn't have any regional or national experience within SNMA, so I applied with the hope that they would see my potential and let me in on the secret that is FLP. And thankfully they did. They really enjoyed the dedication that I provided to my local chapter. And that's just a tidbit for you all at the moment to know that, yes, you can do it, even if you don't have any regional or national experience. But above that, I started off in 2020, which you all know was a year of chaos. And I think that we can all attest to how much structure this year-long fellowship gave us. So when they started providing opportunities to work with national committees, I decided on the Diversity Research Committee because I, at that point, had no research experience. And I knew that that was a really big thing that medical schools were going to ask me about. So I just wanted to get into that realm. Even if I couldn't necessarily do research, I wanted to work with those who did and get more of an idea. So this is where my program comes into mind. I whenever I work on something, I like to do something that I thoroughly enjoy and something that hasn't been done yet, or rather hasn't been done too much yet. So I created this program called Future Researchers in Medicine, in which we get students who have already done research and want to present at the Wilbert C. Jordan Research Forum and work on their communication skills so that we can start closing the communication gap between medical professionals and the general public. And I thought the best way to do this is to train our students to work on a more TED-like talk. And I actually saw within the participants that some of my students were here. So hello, everyone. Uh, but I did not realize when I started this in August how amazing it was going to be, just working with some very, prominent figures within SNMA, such as the Diversity Research Co-Chair, and just individually mentoring me. In addition to how Amara was saying, Dr. Posse, someone who is so esteemed within SNMA, like coming to me to give me individual mentorship and improve this program. And I cannot emphasize how much support you get when it comes to creating your own programming, or rather, growing as a person within SNMA. And once I created FRIM, there were so many possibilities. There were so many opportunities, not just for myself, but for those who were working with me and for the students who came to be as our first cohort. So if you guys went to AMEC this year, actually, and you were able to stop by on Saturday night for FRIM presentations, you would have seen how our students just really went above and beyond to create these amazing TED-like talks. And I couldn't be happier with what I was able to do within SNMA, not just for my national leadership project, but the webinars they provided really gave me that basis to create my program. And individual and group mentorship, the think tank challenges, as the name suggests, really challenged me to collaborate with people that I've never seen before, that are in different regions. And I think that might be like a little bit of a culture shock, or a regional shock, I guess you could say. But it really helps you learn how to work with the people within SNMA. And it honestly has changed me from who I was in 2020 to who I am now in 2021. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was amazing. So glad you're here to talk about your experience. And these are the type of experiences we hope to give everybody, or the next generation of FLP fellows as well. So I will talk a little bit about my what I did for National Committee as well. So I was assigned to the Publications Committee, and I specifically worked on the Journal of SNMA, which we just abbreviate as JSNMA. So I joined pretty early, so I got to help with the full process of recruiting people. Once we got some submissions, I helped with editing them to make sure they fit the requirements that we needed to be published in the journal. And then I helped with formatting the journal itself, and just the layout and presentation of that. And this experience was great for me because even though I've had a long time in SNMA through MAPS, through my local SNMA chapter in med school, I knew very little about the Publications Committee going in, and now I'm coming out knowing more about this committee specifically, but about like national committees in general. So this feels like a whole new part of SNMA that I learned so much about, even though I did have time in SNMA already. So it was a great opportunity to learn about this. And in the end, I did get to have my name as like someone who helped edit, and this is like a national journal. So this is something like a project that I could put my name on at the end. And that's kind of what we want for everybody coming out of all of these committees. We want a project you could put your name on, or something that you could put on your resume that you work towards. And the committee as well has seen my work in the Publications Committee, and they've definitely suggested for me to join like leadership as well. And that's kind of what we hope comes out of these projects. We want you to either be more comfortable possibly joining the leadership of that committee, or just going out for leadership projects in general now that you know more about SNMA and you have this experience to back you.
And so let me talk about a little bit about my project. So I was not on a national project, but I was on a strategy team project. And this was a little bit different. We worked with 3 people within our team. And I was, like I said before, I was working on diversity or income diversification. And so let me just give you a brief overview of where this stemmed from. This came from AMEC 2020, turning online and thinking about, wow, how is SMA going to get more funding sources? Because AMEC was our main funding source. We didn't want to be in that situation again. So we're thinking, what are other ways where we can diversify our income so we can bolster ourselves for the future? And so after talking with so many people, we brainstormed, we talked to so many different national committees, we talked to past chairs, we talked to alumni, we talked to people who were working in other NGOs just to get an idea of how they diversify their income. We came up with this insight that nearly 50% of our members are comprised of recent and established alumni. And if we were able to just get 5% of that 50% of our population, 5% of those attendings, those PGYs that have already graduated, if we can get those, then we could potentially and have them pay or donate $84 monthly on a reoccurring basis. We could potentially get upwards of $200,000 in funds to bolster SMA. So this insight led us to garner more support to figure out if this is something we actually want to dive deep into. We talked to Dr. Sanders, who was actually our PI, and he said alumni donation is a low-hanging fruit. That's something that we should actually get on the ball doing. Dr. Matthews, she's also an alumni of SMA and also really involved in SMA, was able to get a couple of her friends to donate when COVID-19 hit to SMA, a couple of her friends to donate $1,000 each. So this $84 number is not too far off for people who are established alumni. And then lastly, we talked with Alumni Affairs, who said this is something that we're actually looking to do. And after doing SWOT analysis and talking to all these leaders and connecting the dots, we came up with an alumni donation campaign. Can you go to the next slide real quick? And this alumni donation campaign, like I said, was reoccurring. We called it Oath, our alumni taking care of home. You heal, you care, and you give. We sent them emails, we did warm calls, we did marketing on our website, did more marketing. We asked them to spread the word. We asked them to do corporate gift matching. In our first iteration, we just did a feasibility study. We wanted to see, will this work? And the answer to that is yes, it will work. Estimate is receptive to doing recurring monthly donations for established alumni. So from there, we actually did another one. Can we test this out on MS4s, medical students who are just going to be graduating around AMEC time? And from there, we were able to we asked them to do a one-time donation of $20.21 to commemorate their graduating year. And I have yet to see the results from that, but I did a lot of marketing doing AMEC. So I'll let you guys know how that went. And so just all this to show you that if you put your heart and idea and brainstorm into the project with an SMA, you can get it launched. Like this is everything that we've said so far is something that you can put on your resume, and it just shows more than just the typical pre-med or medical student. The stuff that we do here actually has implications for whether or not you continue to do medicine on a business realm in the healthcare sector, when you're maybe perhaps being CEO of a hospital or something along those lines. And I just want to tie that in because I was a management consultant before, and I work with people like this. And so the projects that we do here, the skills that you learn are not far off from your friends who might have gone into consulting or into finance. You learn how to tailor that for the medical realm. So really passionate about SMA, as you can tell. I mean, I would not have gotten to become co-director if it wasn't for this project, and just loving what I did here.
So another component we just want to touch on a little bit more is mentorship, and we provide multiple opportunities for that throughout the program. So through think tank challenges, we have one person reach out to someone who is a SMA leader and have them kind of ask questions pertaining to the situational scenario we gave earlier in that month. So that's an opportunity to get to not only talk to them, but kind of introduce yourself and get to know about their position if you're interested. We also connect you with individual mentors through SMA as well, and we kind of tailor that to what level you might be at. So for those who are pre-med and post-bac or non-traditional, we might give you a medical student because that's a little bit closer to what you're looking for in the near future. And for medical students, we pair you with past SMA leaders who are physicians, since that's kind of what you're looking for in the near future as well. And then we also have mentor groups. So we try to make these FLP fellow mentor groups based off of similar characteristics of being in medical school or pre-med. So you should have about 4 other people or 5 people total, FLP fellows, and you're going to be assigned to one of the coordinators for the organization, and that's your mentoring group. So you'll probably have a group me where you do check-ins and maybe some individual calls with your mentor, as well as group calls with everyone, the FLP fellows and your group mentor as well.
Next, there's opportunities for our fellows to engage in National Leadership Institute. And these are meetings where a lot of the SMA directors and SMA national co-directors and also regional co-directors go to, and these meetings happen periodically. So the main reason why we're doing this is so that our fellows get a really deep dive look into how SMA works and functions. By knowing this, you can be able to navigate SMA. If you do strategy team, you will have a presentation to the NLI in around the January timeframe, and then later on, your final presentation will be given to the board of directors. I just want to make sure that everybody who's a fellow in general can attend these National Leadership Institutes. Okay.
So we also have leadership skills sessions, which happens a little bit later in the FLP curriculum. But just an example of things that we thought were important to hold and that was hosted last year was networking and mentorship by Dr. Posse, skills like code switching with Buki, I feel like I'm saying her name wrong, but Buki. Establishing priorities, so goals for your medical career by Dr. Felix, and time management, balancing school and self-care by Dr. Boyle. And I personally did the networking and mentorship with Dr. Posse, and it was a really great experience from start to finish because after she did her little intro, she said, okay, everybody introduce yourselves. And even that was like a way of her evaluating, okay, like, by the way you introduced yourself, this is what I could tell, this is what you should add. And we're going to be introducing ourselves to a lot of people in our career. So it's an important skill to learn, like how to tailor that to who you're talking to and how to be efficient in what you're saying.
And then following that, we do pre and post questionnaires just to assess knowledge acquisition throughout the duration of the FLP program. So we assess your knowledge. We're also assessing if the fellows were able to work on skills they set ahead of time to, like, I want to work on this, were they able to do that? And also to assess their perspective on the program, and then just to get an overall sense of how the program went. So it's nothing too major. This is a really quick, like 20-minute exercise, but just to know that we do pre and post questionnaires.
And then AMIC is a really fun part of FLP. It's kind of the ending of your year as a FLP fellow. We will provide letters of support to your school to possibly get you funding to be able to attend. And this year next year we're looking to have AMAC in Orlando, Florida. So that should just be a fun experience where we get to honor everyone as FLP fellows, and you get to go to multiple different workshops. And there's a banquet hosted for you guys, considering that we'll be, or hoping that we'll be in person for next year AMAC.
And a question we got a lot was a weekly time commitment. I just want to really stress that this is just an estimate. And depending on how involved you are in your project, it can be longer or it can be shorter. I do want to say that the more you put in, like anything, the more effort you put, the more you get from it. And this is something the more you put into FLP SMA, definitely the more you get from it. I a testament to that. And so weekly, you might be doing a number of these things, but not all of these at once. So you might be attending webinars on Sunday, like we talked about the 4th and 4th Sundays. You might be meeting to work with your think tank project and your presentation, interacting with your mentors, group or individual, and also working with leadership projects, which might include your meetings and your assignments and fill out your parent phase reports. I just want to make sure that when you do your leadership project, that is basically what the fellow sets up. this is a skeleton of what's going on, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty of your project, it will entail you meeting people, connecting with someone, writing up a PowerPoint presentation so you can be able to easily disseminate information to the people you meet. So there are little things in here that it's not necessarily put on the slide, but just think through, like, if I'm working on a project with teammates, what might come up? Oh, we might need to set up a reoccurring team meeting, or we might need to meet with our consultant or our PI, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and then just to give a larger snapshot of that, these are all things that we've already dived into, so it's a little bit of an overview again. But between webinars, the first and fourth Sunday of the month, think tank challenges and working with your team in between getting the challenge and presenting the challenge, mentor meetings happening either with your individual mentor or group mentor, your leadership projects on the national or strategy team, and then project progress, which is something that we want to keep for FLP, keeping in mind those pair and phase reports as well. So we estimate about 13 hours a month. And again, this is a very rough estimate. It really depends on what team you're on, who are your teammates, how long these leadership projects take, what assignments you're on. So these are all very variable, but we just want to give some kind of answer to what is time commitment for FLP, because like we said, this is a rigorous program and we want people to know what they're coming into. Yeah, and just highlighting again, rough estimate, and is very dependent on the different groups that you're in.
And then next, we are looking for fellows who are pre-meds, post-bacs, and medical students, as you know right now. So the eligibility is pretty simple. Current SNMA leaders are welcome to apply. So even if you are on your MAPS chapter or your SNMA chapter in medical school, you can still apply for this FLP fellow. And we're looking to do 10 and 10, so 10 non-trads and pre-meds and 10 medical students. And the idea behind that, so everybody can learn from everybody. And that's essentially what happened this past year. And you must be a paying member of SNMA, because this cannot happen if you're not a paying member. I mean, people put in a lot of effort to make this work, so we definitely want you to be a paying member. And the program will require proof of payment later on. So the qualities, we definitely need self-starters, those who do not need somebody to nudge them along to continue, but those who are dedicated and passionate about what they're doing and to eventually enhance SNMA. Definitely need team players. Anytime you do anything, you are going to be working and collaborating with people. So this is a great way and a great time to know and develop your strengths, and also just be aware of some weaknesses you might have or you might want to work on. Definitely innovative thinkers. If we do not have innovative thinkers, this will be boring, but we do. And so this is what keeps this project and this program exciting. And definitely be optimistic, because the flip side of it is not very fun, if you ask me. And then lastly, we just really want people to be dedicated and, like, yes people, like yes and, like, you can do this type of personality we're looking for, because it just makes the whole environment inviting and welcoming, and just like an empathy-driven, innovative fellowship leadership program.
Okay, so if you're accepted as an FLP fellow for the upcoming year, here are some just general expectations that we have for all fellows. So we want you to participate in all webinar sessions and submit all documents by the deadlines that we outline. And we will, I think we send reminders halfway through the month with most of the deadlines, so it's not something, we hope that no one has to miss a deadline. We really expect professionalism out of all the FLP fellows. We want fellows to participate in at least 4 out of 5 webinars, ideally all 5 webinars. Again, at least 4 out of 5 think tank challenges, ideally all 5. All fellows must present once during a think tank challenge, and that's what goes with having 5 of them. So each of the fellows has a chance to do each role, including presenter. And all fellows must actively participate in a leadership project. So we don't want to link you to a project and then see that you're not having any progress or doing any work or didn't even communicate with the national committee. We want you to be very active in that and make the most out of these projects.
And then the rules part. So every program needs to have rules to ensure accountability, and we do have some ourselves. If you're unable to participate in any webinar, we must email the program directors no later than the Friday prior to the webinar, 48 hours. And this is just to be courteous, this is because we bring on physician leaders who are very busy themselves to do this. So we need to know ahead of time if you miss 2 curriculum components, and those are the leadership webinars that we talked about before. If you miss them, you will be contacted by program directors to discuss your participation, further continuation of this project. And if you miss 2 curriculum components without notice, you'll be placed on probation status, and your status will be communicated with your mentor group leadership. And then when you're on probation, we do monitor you a little bit closely, which is not so fun, but it's necessary. And then if you miss 3 curriculum components, you're subject to dismissal from the FLP program. And this is because we really are looking for dedicated people and people who want to be physician leaders. And not so fun to talk about rules, but definitely necessary for accountability.
Okay, and this is an important slide of deadlines for everyone here. So our application did go live on March 30th. We were advertising at AMAC, possibly where you saw about this informational webinar as well. The deadline to submit is going to be Sunday, April 25th, 11:59 Eastern Time. So status notification, we mean we're going to email you and say, yes, we got all your documents. Thank you for applying for the position. And we'll let you know about acceptance on May 8th, Saturday, May 8th. That's when you'll find out if you are selected to become an FLP fellow for this upcoming year. And then the program starts on May 30th. So between May 8th and May 30th, there's going to be a couple of emails going out. They're going to be a little bit hefty, but we want to really hit the ground running on May 30th. Like we said, this is an intense and rigorous program. There's going to be a lot we want you guys to get out of this, so we really need to hit the ground running on May 30th for the welcome call. And then our program, the culmination of it, again, is going to be a wonderful event, AMAC 2022 at Orlando, which will hopefully be in person.
And with that, that's the end of our presentation. So NFLP is definitely creating future leaders. We are a testament to that. And we can take questions and comments you have now. I realized halfway through the presentation that if you don't have a Teams account, you can't actually comment. So you can use the button to raise your hand and we'll just call on you, or you can just say questions as they come.
And for anyone who hasn't seen our flyer yet, we'll email all the participants who signed up for this webinar, but here's also the flyer, the QR code, and I know not everyone might have access to the chat, but I'll put the forms link in the chat as well. And like Amara said, feel free to unmute and ask questions or raise your hand as well.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name is Deandra. I just had one question. What's the criteria? What do you guys look for in selecting an applicant?
Yeah, so do you mind going back to the slide, Ariana, real quick? So yeah, a little too far.
Oh, I passed it, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, these are the qualities down here. We want self-starters, passion for enhancing the SNMA, team players, innovative thinkers, people who are optimistic, collaboration-driven, and dedicated, because this is an intense program. And so we can see these qualities through the mini essays that are in the application. So things along those lines that we're looking for. Does that answer everything, Deandra?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're definitely welcome. Ishmael, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hey, Amara.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you guys for putting this on. I'm Ishmael. Before I get started, I just want to apologize for kind of dropping in here. I didn't realize my mic was on early. I don't know if I disrupted the presentation and all that.
You're fine.
Right. But I'm not sure if you mentioned this earlier, but
Okay.